the signs that it really is you and not them in a relationship. So far, we've covered you practice avoidance, you project obsession and fantasy, and you have anxiety and anxious attachment issues. It's fun, right?
Yeah.
So fun. Let's continue because there's more. Signs that it's you and not them in the relationship. You're overly judgmental and overly critical.
Oh, yeah, that's me.
I was waiting.
I start getting OCD on it, too. And it's very weird.
Well, for instance, you'll be judging them for the small things that aren't really important.
Cankles.
Or sticking to impossibly high standards.
I did have a problem with that, and I don't know what was wrong with me because I look back on them like, and I'm then like, why is that such a big deal? But I remember a girl, and this is so shallow, I guess, but
I guess.
I just remember being at the bar, and I was just DJing at this bar back in Norfolk, and this girl came in, and we were kind of seeing each other and dating, and I couldn't get over the fact that it looked like her leg just continued straight down to her foot with no ankle. You know what I mean? And then every time, especially in the spring and the summer, she would wear shorts, I would start OCDing on the fact that, oh my gosh, she has no ankles. And I
no calves.
In my mind, I actually remember saying, I think she would look hotter if she just chopped her feet off and hopped around on her stomach. That's what I'm talking about.
Not with you.
I'm just saying.
If you are to go to your next therapy thing, I would start with that one.
Well, that was years ago.
Start with that story.
Now that I look back on it, I'm like, okay, it's not a big deal. And she still has to walk.
Jason's clearly grown. He's clearly grown in
painful.
Proud of you for admitting this.
Yeah, that's
Proud of
gross.
you for admitting
That's
that.
gross.
Do you think it's your own deficiencies? Like you don't have to. You do the avoidance with yourself. Like if you just focus on everybody else's deficiencies, then you don't have to look inside your own self.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the fact that I'm always ridiculed for being short, possibly. But you know, it is. It's still to this
Does it
day.
make you feel better to tear other people apart?
No, it's not. It's not tearing them apart. I feel bad for them, and that it's my own mind all of a sudden getting unattracted to the person because of the cankles. But I will say, and then if I get over another thing, it goes immediately to another thing. I'm like, God, I mean, every time she like talks, she gets all red in the face. She's getting red every single time she talks.
She's
never
blotchy
going
on
to
her
go away.
chest when she gets hot.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or she looks like she burns in the sun immediately. How's that going to change? Well, self-tanning? No, her skin's going to burn every time we ever go outside anywhere. That type of thing. But it is shallow, and there's other people that would totally love and accepting and tolerant of it. It's just
Accepting is the word, yes.
That's the problem.
Yes.
Now, is this saying you're being critical like to them, or just in your mind you're like, I don't like that?
I think it could be both. Where you do fixate on stuff like
Totally.
that. And the therapist says that you should allow people to be human and to make mistakes because this is the truth. Most people on the dating scene, or if you're already in a relationship, are wounded. All people are.
That is
you
so
know,
true.
we all have our own things, and my thing is not the same as your thing, and your thing and your thing, but we all have them, and we have to figure it out and be accepting and to just loving.
Well, you don't have to date them. You don't. There's people that you're just not attracted to, and that's okay.
Imagine
but I think
somebody
if somebody makes a mistake on, or they open up to, or whatever, and you're like, oh, you're terrible, or whatever, instead of saying, well, we all make mistakes.
Yes, and imagine somebody holding you to the impossibly high standard.
Oh, terrible.
It's,
that's
you don't.
The
That's
other
not fair.
person was thinking what I'm thinking, I would never have anybody. But, and there's also times, too, it can be a Victoria's Secret model. It could be anybody. It could be the smoke. And it's at first, it's like, oh, my gosh. And then all of a sudden, no matter how perfect the person is or the girl is or beautiful is, something pops up like, huh. I never noticed the side of her hip like that. Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Her shoulder blade and that. It's weird, you know.
How is your wife? How does she?
What?
How does she survive?
She surrounds herself with a lot of friends.
That's what it is.
I don't do that with her.
Oh, okay. All right.
I do it with 100% of the rest of the population.
But not her.
But
not
not
the
my
person
bride.
I chose.
I feel like you're lying.
Yeah, see, this is always one-sided. It's always like, oh, I feel bad for your wife. You should treat your wife better. And I'm like, okay, well, you don't know how.
Well, she said to you before, like, why don't you just grow?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Well, she has to. Do you see what she's dealing with?
I was at the place when they said, we're both getting like treatments done on our face. And she was like, loudly in front of the whole entire place. Is there anything you can do about his double chin?
Oh,
Okay. All right. So you both
that's
do it.
hurtful.
Two-way
Okay,
street
I
here.
You
see.
both do it. Well, and Katie, you're
we
talking
just
about
hear your side,
we
but
don't
yeah.
want the high standard. Like I now, maybe not before, am fully aware there's no person that grew up, no woman or girl that grew up that fantasized that one day I'll be with someone that looks like Jared. There's not one
That's the
person
truth.
that's like, ooh, in their greatest hopes and dreams is that.
Yeah.
Was that a like an overtime
Well, it's
realization
overtime.
or okay?
No, I
It
think
wasn't
like
just,
in my mid-20s, I'd be like, yeah, there'd be a portion of society that'd be
Okay.
excited
Somebody
about
wants
it.
this.
Sure.
Yeah.
At least a decent percentage. I mean, like,
You get a couple
somewhat.
bones.
Yeah, but
But
then
now-
over the years, it's
No.
like okay, all right.
Nope.
I didn't know if that was gradual
And it
or if it was
sucks.
just you wake up one day and you're like, oh, here
oh,
it
it's
is.
a bad realization.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We're stirring up a lot of feelings
We
for
are.
a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, another sign that you are the problem and not the other person in a relationship or if you're just dating, you're too nice. You're
Yep,
too
definitely.
nice.
That's me.
That also means it actually might be.
It is.
It
in
actually, in
not with you
relationships,
guys, but in
yes.
relationships, way too nice.
Yes, I think you avoid conflict
Yep.
and you are too agreeable, and it
Yep.
is a total turn off for everyone involved. Often we think it's attractive
Yeah, I don't have
that
to worry about that.
you could just tune this out, Jason.
He does it so he can be more attractive.
Yeah.
Right. He is the most attractive. It's a big turn on with how not nice he is.
This applies to everybody but you, Jason. Often we think that it's attractive when somebody is easygoing and nice, but it becomes boring really fast.
Oh, yeah.
Real chemistry, according to the therapist, often comes from conflict and difference. That does not mean screaming and yelling at each other. It just means you have differing opinions and you have differing hobbies and things that you like to do and things that you...
And it keeps it interesting, too,
Yes.
because you think like, well, how could somebody possibly do that or like that? And then you start thinking about it, and then you're like, oh, maybe I could try this. Or, oh, I see that point. It's interesting. If you just agree up everything you think is boring.
Yeah, so boring, so boring.
Yep.
The dating expert adds that most people feel that you're not being you're not being who you really are. It creates a disconnect and a feeling of blandness and a lack of spark. She does recommend taking a risk of being fully yourself, express your real opinions, but in a warm and friendly way, not the conflict like the screaming and yelling. We don't do this often enough, and it results in failed relationships later on because it was never based on the truth. Your real self never came out.
I think mine comes later
Okay.
in relationships.
What do you
I think
mean?
mine, like I share all my opinions and very clear about who I am and all this stuff. But then as relationships progress, I feel like I think it goes back to avoidance. I become more agreeable because I want to avoid conflict.
Right.
But it's not
Yeah.
like, oh, let's go eat here, and it's disgusting. I'm like, sure. I'm like, no, I don't like that. But I mean, but if
Like
it's
big
but
issues.
big issue, I'm like, yeah, that's fine
Yeah.
because I just don't want any conflict, and and it causes probably
it-
ends up causing more conflict.
Like maybe based somewhere in there on abandonment, like don't leave. Maybe.
right? Yeah, not
it's-
from my childhood, but
yeah,
from
I
other
can see-
experiences,
I can
right.
see that. Well, and then
I'm
finally,
glad I'm being vulnerable, and
you
Squid's
really
not.
are. I know.
Well, no, I
Squid's
mean,
not,
I was
Matt's
agreeing
not.
with you. Like I'm the same way. Like
Yeah?
I always agree when it. Like I kind of
Stop agreeing with me. You're it's
No.
so bland.
No,
You're
like,
so boring.
no, yeah, I just don't like arguments or negative conversation. I just avoid anything negative by any means.
And
at
why
all
did you
costs.
date your last girlfriend that one?
I mean,
You know, the
She
one
had
that
her own
did the keg
opinions.
Nice guy over here.
No, the one that did the keg stand.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's why they're not together.
Yeah, I mean,
They were together for a while.
I mean, we were, but I mean, it got to a point where I was not speaking up and saying how I really felt just because I didn't want to have those conversations.
Yeah.
And then eventually, I was becoming unhappy.
Why didn't you want to have the conversation? Is what the like? Why don't you want to?
In my mind, it's not going to go well, so why even have it? I'd
Yeah.
rather just enjoy our time right now.
So, but you'd rather live in a fake relationship, just smooth sailing, that you know is going to end anyway.
I
You ever-
guess. I mean, yeah, I guess in a way, but I don't really look at it like that.
Mhm.
In my mind, it's like, well, okay, I can brush this off and not address it, and maybe in the future it'll
will
get better.
change?
It'll get better.
So, isn't that exactly what we say about women who look at a guy and say, "Oh, I can change you. We can address this, and I'll change you later." It's
I guess-
not a good thing.
Probably
That's not
Yes.
good.
No,
I
it's not
guess,
good,
yeah,
it's
I
not
guess it
good.
is the same thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah,
same.
but more of like rather than I think maybe changing her to be like us together will change. I guess our
Mhm.
chemistry will get better. I guess I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess maybe it is that. I don't know.
I feel you, man.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely can see
It's
it.
the
yeah.
fear of the female reaction that
I don't
keeps us
think
like, I
so.
don't know what I'm
Yeah.
gonna do. You know,
Why is it got to be the female reaction?
even the way
though?
you're acting now is like makes me wish I didn't say
Your
anything.
avoidance and lack of boundaries is really, really unattractive right now.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, really unattractive.
I know. I got it.
The last sign that it is you and not them in the relationship, you are too competitive or argumentative. That is Jared, and that is Jason to a freaking T.
Yeah.
That is more Jared. I'm not competitive like overly competitive. I mean,
Excuse
I'm
me?
competitive, but I'm overly competitive like Jared does to a point.
Okay.
He's being competitive
Like-
about but
Yes,
not being
but not
competitive.
being
Yeah. What's you like
competitive.
cussing out kids at your cornhole tournament you had?
So that's not a relationship. That wasn't a relationship, though.
Competitive? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think Jared's competitiveness is way more than mine. It gets in the way of things.
All right. Well,
Maybe for you.
No.
this can be a total date or relationship killer. The therapist says try to avoid too much banter as well as joking constantly because it becomes exhausting and superficial.
I do that.
Instead, you can opt for warm humor. Self-deprecation typically works, but you have to make sure that you have a limit.
You got to be careful the self-deprecation because not
Too
to
much.
pick on him, but like
Yes.
Tripper, our night guy, the nicest guy ever.
Sure.
He takes it like too far. He's very funny and
Right.
quick, but then he'd be like, "Why would you even want to be on a date with someone as horrible
as
And then-
me?"
Then,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the women start thinking, "Yeah, why?"
Yeah, why would I? Perception is reality,
yeah,
right?
stop. Yeah.
Okay, so as long as you're self-aware,
Okay.
that is a very attractive quality.
I feel like that helped, and I feel like
Good.
worse about myself, but
Oh.
because
Oh, that wasn't.
no, growth is painful.
That's true.
You got to
That
tear
is
it down
true.
to build it back
Don't
up.
avoid it.
Yeah, growth is painful. That's why Jason hasn't been through much pain in his life.
Whatever makes you feel better about yourself. Does it?
that did.
Talk about growth.
Got
Okay.
really lightheaded.
For like 10 seconds. I feel all right.
Well, good. Hopefully later on you'll still feel good like you are now.
No, I won't.
I know you will.
I know I won't.
Just look at your head. That's all.
That's why I'm wearing a hat, obviously.
Yep.
All right.